What was Michael's passion in life?
He really got the bug for music, and he was into beatboxing and rap and hip-hop. He was doing a lot of his own marketing, and he would sell tickets to people, cold sale.
That's the way business was done, and cash businesses are always targets.
A stranger walked up to him and simply shot him in the head.
His car, his cash are gone.
Did they find a clue that could lead to the killer?
It wasn't his DNA on the cigarette, but someone else's.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Las Vegas, Nevada, Sin City. An aspiring hip-hop artist was found shot dead in the parking lot the day he was set to perform. Police had little to go on, but a clue found at the scene was their only hope to solve the case. It led to a killer and put a stop to his murderous crime spree. Las Vegas, where some dreams are born, while others wither on the vine. Some in Vegas create their dream by reinventing themselves, like Michael Portaro.
Michael Portaro was a really well-regarded young man. People loved him, and he was a very kind and giving person. And when he turned about 22 or so, he really got the bug for music. And he was into beatboxing and rap and hip-hop and recording and really promoting a career aspiring to be a hip-hop artist.
Michael recognized that this was a genre of music that he really connected with, that he felt he could express himself with. He created a name for himself and performed on the name Mikey P. He was performing. He had a partner, and they were getting ready to do a concert.
Michael was so consumed with making music, he built his own home studio. He made home recordings, pressed his own CDs, and sold them out of the trunk of his car.
He was doing a lot of his own marketing and ticket sales, and he would sell tickets to people, cold sale for a concert the next day, sell CDs out of his car, having quite a bit of cash on him at times.
Mikey was getting ready to do a concert the very next night. He was his own promoter. In those days, that's the way business was done, and cash businesses are always targets.
And he was in the parking lot of a local brewery, and an unknown assailant shot him cold-blooded in the head and left him to die in the parking lot. Las Vegas police arrived at the scene and found Michael dead in the parking lot.
Police noticed right away that there are no shell cases lying around, so they surmised that he was shot with a revolver, because a revolver, the cases are not ejected as you would have with a pistol. There's some loose cash lying around. Two very important things were missing. One, his vehicle was gone. Two, he had a large roll of cash because he'd been selling tickets, and that was gone too.
Police located a camera pointed right at the parking lot where Michael's body was found.
Police got a major break when they uncovered some closed-circuit surveillance, and it showed Michael next to his car, and another car pulls up. He leans into the vehicle and is actually selling a CD and concert tickets for his upcoming show, when all of a sudden a man wearing a hoodie walks up to him, and they exchange words for just a matter of minutes.
What did police observe in the video happening between Michael and the man in the hoodie?
We see a man approach, a black man, and he approaches Mikey, and he's got a cigarette. And Mikey and this man appear to talk. They appear to have a conversation. They appear to be engaged.
There appears to be an argument, and the next thing you know, Michael is dead in the parking lot. So it appeared that he had been attacked by a stranger who had walked up to him and simply shot him in the head.
His car, his cash are gone. So as the police begin their investigation, they consider a variety of possibilities. Was this a robbery gone bad? Had something else occurred? Was it a drug deal? So what was the real story? What happened?
Detectives searched the surrounding area for Michael's Nissan, hoping that it might contain evidence of the killer's identity.
Within a day, the police found his stolen Nissan abandoned over in an adjacent North Las Vegas community where it was torched. And obviously the killer had stolen his car and abandoned it and tried pouring an accelerant in the vehicle and lighting it on fire, but the car was left largely intact.
And this is a clue that this isn't just a random car theft, that whoever took that car was covering their tracks and doing all that they could in a very premeditated way to get away with murder.
Cops had a murder on their hands and few clues as to a motive or who killed Michael Portaro. It was a frustrating whodunit. What motives did police consider when investigating this murder?
They did not have a lot to go on. They explored the possibility that perhaps he could have been involved in a drug transaction. He was observed leaning into a car just prior to the shooting. Also, his ex-girlfriend and he had parted ways, and she ended up dating an MMA fighter, so they explored the possibility that could this be domestic violence, some kind of love triangle, but as the investigation proceeded, they were able to rule both those scenarios out.
Pretty soon the police realized that Mikey hadn't been involved in any criminal activity. This was no drug deal gone bad. But this young, aspiring rapper with his future before him, found dead on a sidewalk like this, was shocking, even in Las Vegas, and captured the interest of people because they wondered, well, what had happened? How did this go down?
It was a very high-profile story in Las Vegas because, it's your worst nightmare. You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. A good person who was living by society's rules, and someone just comes up and shoots him in the head in a parking lot. It's just such a shocking crime.
Police were at an impasse. They looked for a motive but didn't yet have the full picture of what happened. They began to consider that perhaps Michael wasn't the only victim.
Right after Michael was killed, they started looking at other crimes in the area. Was there anything in the area that happened that was similar? And lo and behold, there was. There was a couple that had been carjacked at gunpoint.
The police realized that this was a violent carjacking, and another carjacking had occurred just hours before, involving the same kind of vehicle that Mikey had, the same Nissan Altima.
And the description of the assailant was remarkably similar. Black male wearing a hoodie, carrying a revolver, and it just seemed to line up. It was around the same time, in the same area, so the police really felt like these two events could be connected.
Investigators didn't know who the man in the video was, but they now knew he was the killer.
This could be some kind of rivalry or disagreement within the music community.
Police investigating the brutal murder of hip-hop artist Michael Portaro had made baby steps in finding the killer. They had him on video, but he remained anonymous and free to roam the streets of Las Vegas, perhaps seeking out his next prey. Police wondered if the killer was part of the hip-hop community and knew Michael.
Las Vegas is obviously the scene of the most high-profile hip-hop murder of all time, which is Tupac Shakur. And so the Las Vegas police investigators were very seasoned in this world.
In 1996, Tupac Shakur was the undisputed king of rap. While riding in a car on the streets of Las Vegas with Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records, Tupac was killed in a drive-by shooting. Cops believe the murder was driven by rivalries in the rap community. Now Las Vegas police wondered if Michael's murder was a similar scenario.
With his connections to the hip-hop community, they certainly explored the possibility that this could be some kind of rivalry or disagreement within the music community. In the long haul, though, that was ruled out as well.
Police had a grainy video of a suspect, but he remained an elusive phantom. And there was a cigarette recovered from the crime scene. If they could match it to the man who left it, it could lead to the killer.
Las Vegas police really put a lot of their hopes on this investigation toward the cigarette butt that was found underneath his body. It appeared it had fallen there at the same time as Michael was shot. It did not appear to be just some random item that happened to be there. It appeared to be related.
The police had the cigarette examined for any DNA evidence. There's a strong likelihood that it's going to leave behind evidence that will identify whoever was smoking that cigarette. And one thing police learned right away is that that person was not Mikey. It wasn't his DNA on the cigarette.
And they entered it into the database. A DNA sample from the cigarette butt of known offenders did not get a match. However, that doesn't mean it wasn't a very valuable piece of evidence, because some old-fashioned police work, you can identify a potential suspect and then compare it to the DNA evidence secured from the scene, and really pinned all their hopes on trying to get an identification off that piece of evidence.
Solving the murder of Michael Portaro had become a race against the clock. Police knew there was a killer on the streets, and they thought it was only a matter of time before he struck again. And then they had an idea.
Both the Las Vegas police and Michael's family came together to offer a sizable reward, and they hoped that by putting a monetary award out there that they would get some valuable tips, some new information.
And that leads to a break in the case, because they get an anonymous tip that leads them to the suspect. The tip turns out to be true gold, because the caller informs the police that the killer is Brandon Hill.
Brandon Hill was just recently arrested for carrying a concealed firearm, and the police looked back and found out, hey, we've confiscated this individual's revolver. And they knew that Michael's homicide was committed with a revolver. So they proceeded with ballistic tests and were very pleased to find out that the gun lined up with the firearm that was used in the homicide.
They know that's the murder weapon. This is a major break in the case. They know they have their man. They know who it is. The challenge now is to prove that he is the one who not only had the gun, but used it to kill Mike.
This case wasn't a solve it overnight type case. It was a kind of a whodunit for several months. And so the video surveillance combined with the tip, combined with DNA evidence, it was just a huge break for them to be able to really know that they had the right guy in their scopes.
What else did police do to confirm that Brandon Hill was the killer?
They had a witness to the second carjacking who got a pretty good look at the assailant, and after the police connected the dots on Michael's homicide, they did a photo lineup, and the victim of the second carjacking was able to confirm that it was in fact Brandon Hill who had robbed them at gunpoint.
The police have most of the pieces of the puzzle, but there is still one important piece they need to be able to prove in court beyond a reasonable doubt. They have to prove that Brandon Hill killed Mike. So they turn to the evidence that can set this case on fire, the cigarette butt.
They subsequently were able to get a DNA sample from Brandon. Then they cross-referenced it and confirmed that the cigarette under Michael's body had Brandon's DNA on it. So it was yet another huge fact in confirming that he was at the scene and, in all probability, the killer.
Police now had more than enough to charge Brandon Hill with murder. They went to his apartment to take him into custody, and there they found even more evidence tying him to the murder.
The police find a pair of sneakers with blood on them, and the blood matches Mike's blood.
Blood found on the shoes in the closet was almost indisputable evidence that Brandon Hill was at the crime scene. It linked him directly to the homicide, so we know he was there. There's no other explanation provided other than he had to have been the killer.
The blood on the shoes puts Brandon Hill at the scene of Mike's murder, and that puts the gun in his hand, the gun he's later arrested with. The cigarette trapped under Mike's body has Brandon's DNA, and now we know who the person is in the video talking to Mike just before Mike was shot and killed.
The murder of Michael Portaro devastated his family, and for a time it seemed as if no one would ever be charged. Now, with the arrest of Brandon Hill, their prayers had been answered. But then, the Portaros were dealt another blow.
As the trial of Brandon Hill is about to begin, the family suffers a terrible tragedy. They've already lost their son, and now they lose their daughter to an ATV accident.
Michael's sister died several months after the homicide, In between the time Brandon Hill was in custody, Michael's father passed away from cancer as well. So just a heartbreaking series of events, and highlights how when a murder happens, it's not just the victim, it's all those people around that person who suffer as well.
After years of twists and turns in the investigation, police finally charged the man responsible for Michael Portaro's death. And there was more heartbreak ahead for the Portaro family.
It was just one obstacle after another for this family in their pursuit of justice.
Four years after Vegas hip-hop artist Michael Portaro was shot and killed, Brandon Hill finally went to trial for the murder. The case was solved because of determined Las Vegas police investigators and Michael's family, who never gave up. How did the evidence play out in court against Brandon Hill?
The case against Brandon Hill was incredibly strong, and the jury had no trouble finding beyond a reasonable doubt that Brandon Hill had killed Mike, and Brandon was convicted of that crime.
He was subsequently sentenced to life in prison. However, he was given the opportunity at parole after approximately 28 years.
The Portaro family, who had suffered the pain of losing a child, was grateful that the killer was being held accountable. But there was even more they had to deal with.
It was just one obstacle after another for this family in their pursuit of justice. Michael's sister had passed away, his father had passed away, and then as this case proceeded through the system, his mother also was diagnosed with cancer. Just a snowballing effect of tragedy for the family. And for his mother, it was a commitment for life to get justice for her son. She was committed to fighting through this diagnosis and seeing her son's killer held accountable in a court of law.
After the conviction, Cynthia's cancer goes into remission, and she finds renewed purpose in helping other people cope with grief. And she has had to suffer an incredible series of losses, but she finds solace and purpose in helping other people cope with grief, with loss.
As so often happens in a high-profile murder case like Michael Portaro's, after the verdict, people tend to move on and forget. But Cynthia Portaro has not. She has continued to speak about her loss in seminars and authored a book about her grief and forgiveness in an effort to help others. Solving the murder of Michael Portaro came down to the DNA evidence found on a cigarette. Without it, a killer would have gone free to kill again. Las Vegas police were determined to find Michael's killer and hold him accountable so he would never kill again. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. After the heartbreaking murder of Michael Portaro, his mother, Cynthia, showed tremendous strength and was eventually able to forgive her son's killer. For many survivors of a crime, however, they experience various roadblocks which prevent them from moving forward. Many survivors of crimes experience mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic disorder. But fortunately, help is available. You can contact the National Center for Victims of Crime at victimsofcrime.org. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For everyone here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.